There's a house on Maple Street that looks exactly like every other house on that block. Blue shutters, white fence, a garden where roses bloom every spring. If you walked past it, you wouldn't stop. You wouldn't stare. You wouldn't wonder what happens behind those walls when the sun goes down. And that's exactly what makes it so terrifying. Because the worst horrors don't announce themselves. They don't wear signs or leave evidence on the lawn. They happen in plain sight, wrapped in normalcy, hidden behind the word family. This is the story of a girl named Lena. A girl who lived in that house. A girl who learned that sometimes the people meant to protect you are the ones you need protection from. Stay with me, because this story needs to be told. Not because it's unique, but because it happens far more often than we want to believe. Lena was 8 years old when we enter her story, but she carried herself like someone much older. There was something in her eyes that didn't belong to childhood, a wariness, a calculation, like she was always measuring the room, always anticipating the next wrong move. She lived with Martha and Joseph. That's what the neighbors knew. The nice couple who took in Martha's niece after some family tragedy no one talked about. How generous, people said, how kind. But inside that house, Lena wasn't treated like family. She was treated like an obligation, a mistake someone had to fix. Her room was the smallest one, the one without heating that worked properly. Her clothes were hand-me-downs from donation bins. Her toys were few and broken. But those weren't the things that hurt most. It was the way Martha looked at her. Like Lena was a problem that refused to go away. Like her very existence was an insult. Every morning started the same way. Lena's alarm went off at 5:30. Not because she had to get ready for school, but because Martha expected the house to be in order before she woke up. Dishes washed, floors swept, breakfast started. If Lena was still in bed when Martha came downstairs, there would be consequences. But what kind of consequences does an 8-year-old face for being a child? One morning, Lena overslept. Just 20 minutes. She woke to Martha standing in her doorway, arms crossed, face tight with anger. "Do you think you're special?" Martha said. Her voice was cold, controlled. Lena scrambled out of bed, her heart hammering. "I'm sorry. I didn't hear." "You didn't hear because you don't care. You think you can just take and give nothing back." "I'll do it now. I promise. It's too late for that." Martha stepped closer. Lena flinched before the hand even moved. The slap wasn't hard enough to bruise. It never was. Martha knew how to hurt without leaving marks. "You eat after everyone else today," Martha said. "Maybe hunger will teach you gratitude." Then she left, and Lena stood there, cheeks stinging, tears hot behind her eyes. She learned not to cry out loud. Crying made it worse. So she cried silently while she swept the kitchen floor, while she scrubbed yesterday's dishes, while she made toast she wouldn't be allowed to eat. Joseph sat at the table, reading his paper, saying nothing. He never intervened, never told Martha to ease up, never asked if Lena was okay. He just watched. And somehow, his silence felt worse than Martha's cruelty, because at least Martha's anger was direct. Joseph's indifference was a different kind of violence, but indifference wasn't the right word for what Joseph felt, because when night came, he was anything but indifferent. Bedtime was 9 o'clock. Lena would brush her teeth, put on her pajamas, and climb into bed. She'd pull the covers up to her chin and stare at the ceiling, counting, always counting. Sometimes it was breaths. Sometimes it was the cracks in the plaster above her bed. Anything to keep her mind occupied, because she knew what was coming. Around 10, after Martha had gone to sleep, She'd hear it. The creak of footsteps in the hallway. Slow, deliberate. Her door would open. Joseph would stand there, backlit by the hallway light, his face hidden in shadow. "Just checking on you," he'd say. Every time, the same words, as if repetition made them true. Lena would close her eyes. She'd pretend to be asleep, but it never worked. "I know you're awake, Lena." His voice was soft, almost kind. That made it worse somehow. He'd sit on the edge of her bed. The mattress would dip under his weight. "You're a good girl, aren't you?" She'd nod, always nod, because saying no was dangerous. "You know I take care of you. You know you should be grateful." Another nod. "And you know that if you told anyone about our special time together, they wouldn't believe you, right?" Her throat would close up. She'd nod again. "Say it." "They wouldn't believe me," she'd whisper. "Good girl." Then he'd touch her. "I won't describe the details. Some things don't need to be said out loud to be understood. What matters is this." Lena learned that her body wasn't her own, that the word no had no power in that room, that adults could do whatever they wanted, and a child's pain didn't matter. When it was over, Joseph would leave. He'd close the door gently, like nothing had happened, like he hadn't just stolen another piece of her childhood. And Lena would lie there in the dark, feeling dirty, feeling broken, feeling like somehow this was her fault. But here's the question that haunts this story. Where was Martha during all of this? She was in the next room, sleeping, or pretending to. Because Martha knew, maybe not at first, but eventually, you can't miss the signs. You can't ignore the way a child flinches when a man enters the room, the way she goes quiet during dinner, the way she stares at nothing, eyes hollow. One night, about a year into the abuse, Martha confronted Joseph, not to protect Lena, to protect her marriage. They were in their bedroom, door closed, voices low. But Lena could hear them through the wall. "I know what you're doing," Martha said. Silence. "Don't pretend, I'm not stupid." "Then why bring it up now?" Joseph's voice was calm, too calm. "Because people are going to notice. That teacher at school, she's been asking questions. So handle it. Handle it. She's a child, Joseph. She's not my child." The words hung in the air. Martha said nothing for a long moment. Then, "She's mine." More silence. "If you want to keep this marriage," Martha finally said, "you need to be more careful. Not stop. Be more careful." Lena pressed her ear harder against the wall, her whole body shaking. "Does she know?" Joseph asked. "That I'm her mother? No, and she won't. Not from me." "Good. Keep it that way." The conversation ended, and Lena sat on her floor, the truth crashing over her like cold water. Martha wasn't her aunt. She was her mother, a mother who knew what was happening, a mother who chose a man over her own daughter, a mother who cared more about appearances than protection. How does a child process that kind of betrayal? She doesn't. Not really. She just survives, day by day, moment by moment. At school, Lena kept to herself. She sat in the back of the class, didn't raise her hand, didn't make friends. Because friends asked questions, friends wanted to come over, and Lena couldn't let anyone see inside her house. But Mrs. Allen noticed her anyway. Mrs. Allen taught 4th grade and lived 3 houses down from Lena. She'd seen Lena walking to school alone every morning, seen the way she kept her eyes down, the way she wore long sleeves even in warm weather. One afternoon, Mrs. Allen asked Lena to stay after class. Lena's stomach dropped. "Am I in trouble?" she asked quietly. "No, sweetheart. I just wanted to check in." Mrs. Allen pulled up a chair. How are things at home? Fine. Are Martha and Joseph treating you well? Lena's hands twisted in her lap. Yes. Mrs. Allen studied her carefully. Lena, if something is wrong, you can tell me. I'm here to help. For just a moment, Lena considered it. The words were right there. He hurts me. She lets him. I'm scared. But then she remembered Joseph's voice. They wouldn't believe you. Everything's fine, Lena said. Can I go now? Mrs. Allen looked like she wanted to push further, but she nodded. Of course. But Lena, my door is always open. Lena left before the tears could come, but Mrs. Allen didn't stop watching, and eventually, even the best hidden secrets start to crack. It happened on a Tuesday. Lena was 10 years old. She'd been late to school again, because Martha had given her extra chores as punishment for breaking a glass. She rushed into class, out of breath, and took her seat. Mrs. Allen noticed immediately. Lena, are you all right? Yes, ma'am. But when Lena reached for her pencil, her sleeve rode up. There, on her forearm, was a bruise, dark purple, finger-shaped. Mrs. Allen saw it. Lena, what happened to your arm? Lena yanked her sleeve down. I fell. Can I see it? No, it's fine. Lena, I said I'm fine. The outburst shocked them both. Lena never raised her voice, never pushed back. Mrs. Allen softened her tone. Okay, I'm sorry for pushing. But during lunch, she called the principal. And the principal called social services. That afternoon, a woman named Sarah came to the school. She was kind, patient, wore a soft sweater, and spoke in a gentle voice. She asked Lena questions in a small, quiet room. Are you safe at home? Has anyone hurt you? Do you feel scared? Lena answered carefully at first. She'd learned how to lie without lying, how to say the right things to make adults stop asking. Yes, I'm safe. No, no one hurts me. No, I'm not scared. But Sarah was different from other adults. She didn't accept the first answer. She waited, comfortable with silence, in a way that made Lena uncomfortable. Lena, Sarah said, after a long pause, I know you're scared, and I know you've probably been told not to talk about what's happening at home. Lena's hands twisted in her lap. But I want you to know that whatever you tell me stays between us. And if someone is hurting you, it's not your fault. Nothing you did caused this. Do you understand? Something in Sarah's voice cracked through Lena's defenses. Maybe it was the kindness. Maybe it was the exhaustion of carrying secrets for so long. Maybe it was just that Lena couldn't pretend anymore. She started crying. Not dramatic sobs, just quiet tears that slipped down her cheeks. He comes to my room, she whispered. Who does? Joseph. When does he come to your room? At night, after Martha goes to sleep. What does he do when he comes to your room? Lena's whole body trembled. She couldn't say it, couldn't put words to the things that happened in the dark. He touches me, she finally said. In places he shouldn't. Sarah's face remained calm, but Lena saw her grip her pen tighter. How long has this been happening? 2 years, maybe more. I don't remember when it started exactly. Have you told anyone else? No. Why not? Because he said they wouldn't believe me, and because... She trailed off. Because why, Lena? Because Martha knows, and she doesn't stop him. This was the part that hurt most. Not Joseph's abuse. That was terrible. But in a way, Lena could understand. He was evil, bad, wrong. But Martha was supposed to protect her, and instead, she chose to look away. Sarah listened to every word. Then she made a phone call. Within hours, the police were at the house, and Lena's world exploded. Martha answered the door with a smile. The smile disappeared when she saw the uniforms. "Can I help you? We need to speak with you and your husband about Lena." "What about her? May we come in?" Joseph appeared behind Martha. His face was calm, too calm. They all sat in the living room. Lena was still at school being interviewed. The officers explained that allegations had been made, serious allegations. "This is ridiculous," Martha said. "Lena is a troubled child. She makes things up for attention. We'll need to investigate regardless." "Investigate what? We've given her a home, fed her, clothed her." Joseph stayed silent, just watching. "We understand this is difficult," one officer said, "but we have to take these claims seriously." Martha's face went red. "She's lying. She's always been difficult." "Mrs. Carson, we were told Lena is your niece. Is that correct?" A pause. "Too long?" "Yes." "And her parents?" "They died when she was young." The officer glanced at his notes. "We'll need documentation of that. Birth certificates, death certificates." Martha's jaw tightened. "I'll have to look for them." "We can wait." Another pause. Then Martha said something that changed everything. "She's my daughter." The room went still. "I'm sorry, what?" "Lena is my biological daughter. I gave birth to her." Joseph's head snapped toward her. "Martha, they're going to find out anyway." The officers exchanged glances. "So you lied to the child about her parentage?" "It was complicated." "And the allegations regarding Mr. Carson?" "They're false," Joseph said quickly. "Completely false. We'll need to investigate that claim." Over the next weeks, Lena was removed from the home temporarily. Interviews were conducted, medical exams were done, and the truth came out in pieces. Martha admitted Lena was her daughter from a previous relationship. She'd hidden it from Joseph at first, then told him years into their marriage. Joseph denied all abuse, said Lena was making it up, that she'd always been troubled. Martha backed him up, said Lena was manipulative, said she'd probably misunderstood innocent affection. "He's a good man," Martha told investigators. "She's just confused. How does a mother choose a lie over her daughter's truth? How does she look investigators in the eye and deny her child's pain?" The case fell apart slowly. There wasn't enough physical evidence. Lena's testimony was strong, but she was a child, and children, the system said, could be mistaken, could misinterpret, could fabricate. Joseph had no prior record. He was a respected member of the community, a deacon at the local church, a volunteer at the food bank. How could someone like that be capable of such things? Martha's testimony sealed it. She was the mother, and if the mother said it didn't happen, the case was closed. No charges filed, no arrests made. Joseph went back to work. Martha went back to her routine. And Lena? She went to foster care, not because justice was served, but because the optics were bad. Because even though they didn't believe she was abused, they couldn't send her back. Not after all the attention. So she was removed, placed with strangers, told to move on, told to be grateful, told that sometimes the system does its best, and that's all anyone can ask for. But Lena knew the truth. The system hadn't protected her. It had processed her, filed her away, closed the case, and moved on. Years passed. Lena grew up in foster care. Some homes were kind, some weren't. She learned not to get attached, not to expect permanence. At 16, she started having nightmares again, the kind that woke her up gasping, the kind that made her check the locks 3 times before bed. She went to therapy, a nice woman named Dr. Chen, who specialized in trauma. "What do you want from these sessions?" Dr. Chen asked during their first meeting. Lena thought about it. I want to understand why it happened. Why you were abused. Why no one believed me. Dr. Chen leaned forward. I believe you, Lena. 3 words, simple. But they broke something open inside her. Lena cried for the first time in years. The system failed you, Dr. Chen said gently, but that doesn't mean you failed. Then why does it feel like I did? Because survivors often carry the guilt that perpetrators should bear. Will I ever stop feeling this way? You'll learn to carry it differently, to make room for healing alongside the hurt. At 18, Lena aged out of foster care. She got a small apartment, a job at a bookstore. She tried to build a normal life. But trauma doesn't follow timelines. It shows up when you least expect it. In the smell of a certain cologne, in the creak of a floorboard, in the way someone stands too close. One day, she ran into Mrs. Allen at a coffee shop. Her former teacher looked older, but still kind. Lena, is that you? Lena nodded. They sat together, talked about small things at first. Then Mrs. Allen said, I'm sorry I didn't do more. You did everything you could. It wasn't enough. No, Lena agreed. It wasn't. They sat in silence. Do you know what happened to them? Lena finally asked. Mrs. Allen hesitated. They still live in the same house. Martha teaches Sunday school. Joseph coaches Little League. Lena's stomach turned. And no one knows. People know something happened, but without a conviction, they get to pretend it never did. Mrs. Allen reached across the table, squeezed Lena's hand. You survived. That matters. Does it? Yes, because you're here. You're living, and that's a victory they can't take from you. Lena never got her day in court, never heard Joseph admit what he did, never got an apology from Martha, never received acknowledgement from a system that failed her. She wanted to be angry, and she was. For years, anger lived inside her, like a second heartbeat, constant, exhausting. It showed up when she saw happy families at the park, when friends complained about their overprotective mothers, when someone casually mentioned feeling safe at home. Because Lena never had that. She never knew what it felt like to trust that the people raising you wanted what was best for you. She never experienced unconditional love from a parent, never felt protected. The anger would surge at random moments, standing in line at the grocery store, watching a television show, lying in bed at night. And she'd wonder, why her? What made her dispensable enough to hurt? What made Martha choose a man over her own flesh and blood? Was she not worth protecting? These questions had no good answers, only painful ones. But she survived, and survival, she learned, isn't passive. It's not just breathing and existing. It's waking up every day and choosing to keep going despite the weight. It's building a life from broken pieces. It's learning that healing doesn't mean forgetting. It means integrating, making room for both the pain and the possibility. Learning that you can carry scars and still bloom. At 25, Lena started volunteering at a crisis center for children. She answered phones, listened to voices shaking with fear, told them what she wished someone had told her. I believe you. It's not your fault. You deserve to be safe. The first few months were harder than she expected. Every call brought back memories. Every child's voice echoed her own. She'd go home afterward and cry, not from weakness, but from the weight of knowing how many children were living her same nightmare. How many were being hurt right now, right this moment, while the world kept spinning, while adults looked away, while systems processed paperwork instead of protecting kids. One night, a girl called. She was 12. She was scared. She was being hurt by someone she was supposed to trust. Her voice reminded Lena of her own voice at that age, small, careful, like she was afraid the words themselves might get her in trouble. "Will anyone believe me?" the girl whispered. Lena closed her eyes, steadied her breath. "I believe you, and we're going to get you help. What if it doesn't work?" The question pierced her, because Lena knew it might not work. She knew the system was imperfect, that good intentions didn't always translate to good outcomes. But she also knew this girl needed hope, needed someone to fight for her. "Then we try again, and again, until you're safe." "Did that happen to you?" Lena paused. She'd never told a caller about her own story before, but something about this moment felt different. "Yes." "Did you get justice?" A hard question, an honest answer. "No, but I got something else." "What?" "I got my life back. Not the one I should have had, but the one I built anyway." The girl was quiet for a moment. Lena could hear her breathing. Then, "Thank you." "For what?" "For answering. For believing me. For not giving up." Lena's throat tightened. "I'll never give up on you. I promise. Can I call again, if I get scared?" "Anytime, day or night." After the call ended, Lena sat in the quiet, and for the first time in a long time, she felt something other than pain. She felt purpose. Not revenge, not justice, but purpose. A reason to keep fighting, even when fighting felt impossible. This story doesn't have a happy ending, because real life isn't a movie. Villains don't always face consequences. Survivors don't always get closure. Justice isn't guaranteed. But here's what is true. Lena is still here. She's still fighting, still healing, still believing that her story matters. And there are thousands like her. Children suffering in silence. Adults carrying wounds no one sees. People who are failed by systems meant to protect them. If you're watching this and you've experienced something similar, you're not alone. Your pain is real. Your story matters. And it was never your fault. If you know someone who might be suffering, listen. Believe them. Don't wait for perfect proof. Because sometimes belief is the first step towards safety. The house on Maple Street still stands. Blue shutters, white fence, roses in the garden. From the outside, it looks like every other house on the block. Nothing special, nothing sinister. Just another suburban home where families are supposed to feel safe. But Lena knows what it really is. A place where childhood was stolen, where trust was weaponized, where silence was enforced like a rule. She drives past it sometimes, not often, maybe once a year. Not to remember, she doesn't need reminders, but to prove to herself that she's free from it, that the house doesn't own her anymore, that she escaped. The last time she drove by, she saw children playing in the yard next door, laughing, chasing each other, completely unaware of the horrors that happened just 20 feet away. And she wondered, should she warn them? Should she tell their parents what kind of people live in that house? But what would she say? That Joseph abused her years ago, but was never convicted? That Martha knew and did nothing? Would they believe her? Or would they think she was bitter, troubled, making things up? She kept driving. Because the sad truth is this: some battles can't be won. Some evil goes unpunished. Some stories don't end with justice. They just end. And you have to decide whether you'll let that destroy you or whether you'll build something new from the rubble. Lena chose to build. Not because she's extraordinary, but because she refused to let them take everything. They took her childhood, her innocence, her trust. But they couldn't take her future. That belonged to her, and she was going to make it count. If you love this story and the message it passed, kindly share this video, subscribe, and like for more stories. And unbelievable, true, unaware stories. They deserve justice, and their voices needs to be heard. Thank you for listening.